I don't want to go back to work. You can't make me. Okay, you can't make me, but the fur kids will. Hi, and welcome to Quilt Meets World, where we have adventures in piecing and joy. I'm Russ. Come on into my sewing room. It has been an awesome week, and I did a lot. There's still a few things on my to do list that I didn't get done, but it was also an ambitious list, so I didn't expect to get through everything. On Monday, I worked on a secret project that I can't tell you about yet. After a bit of cussing and yeah, fighting with a couple blocks that shouldn't have been that difficult. I have it almost done. I have a couple seams that I need to get done left, and then record a video about it. So yeah, that one's almost done. Tuesday was very miserable. Very miserable. I had to get up super early so I could take my car to the dealership for its oil change maintenance. I have something else going funky with the car, which did not get resolved, but leave a negative review because of that. They ended up taking several hours because they found some other fluids that they wanted to have changed, which they claimed could have been causing some of my issues. And I was just like, are you sure? I got there about 7:45 in the morning, so yeah, I got up stupid early, and I didn't leave the dealership until about 1 p.m. or so. It was a long day. They also had, uncomfortable chairs because, they don't want you sitting around inside the dealership if they can help it. They want you, in the showroom potentially buying a new car, which I kind of want a new car, but I'm still also not ready for a car payment. Luckily, the chairs were just comfortable enough that I didn't, throw out my back again because that would have been horrible. But I left there at 1 and I was exhausted. But after I left there, I had to go to one of the local quilt shops and pick up some fabric for the other super secret project that I had to work on this week. When I finally got home, it was kind of close to 3, and I was motivated to do absolutely nothing in here. So I didn't. But I did have to come back in here in the evening to record an awesome announcement video with my friend John of Guys Craft 2. The video was released this morning on both of our channels, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out. We are going to do it's going to be a Labor Day weekend sew along together. Half of it's going to be on my channel, half it's going to be on his channel, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So if you are not subscribed to Guys Craft 2, please go subscribe to them. It's awesome channel. Wednesday morning, I published a video on how to recover from a mistake in a quilt block. I made a little bit of a goof in a gnome, and I wanted to get it fixed up and come out right because it's going to be an important gift. So I showed the steps that I did to kind of do what I call microsurgery on the quilt block, where I only took out the portion that I needed to fix it and put it back together. I know I've seen other videos where people have taken out just a little spot that they need to shift. I probably could have done that, but it would have been a lot more work than taking out what I did. Everything all depends on how far you are in the quilt making process and how much work it is to get to what you need to do surgery on. So if you haven't seen that video, go take a peek at it, and it'll let you know how to do a little bit of surgery on a quilt. Wednesday, I had also joined the Sewing with Stephanie and Steven Zoom. And we were without Steven because he was out gallivanting, having other fun. I began working on the other super secret project, and the folks that were on that sew day got to see a few peeks at the project. I started sewing about 9:30 a.m. and finished the quilt top at 3:15 p.m. And that was after me making a horrible mistake. Uh, See, the thing is, a year ago, I did the exact same pattern, mostly. I mean, there was a few other tweaks that I made. So in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. So I didn't reread the pattern. And that was the mistake. The pattern told me to cut 12 units from step one. When I was cutting the units from step one, I just cut all that I could fit, which was 16. That's what a good, third more than I needed. So as I was doing step two, or maybe it was three, I ran out of fabric, strips cut. I thought that I somehow misplaced one of the strips. I didn't even start doing any math or anything at that point. I was just looking around for a missing strip and could not find it anywhere. So I was like, well, I need to cut an extra strip. At that point, that just gives me an extra jelly roll strip because I think it was 2.5 inches. And I was like, that'll be fine, whatever. As I was doing the last set of pieces for those blocks, I ran out of fabric again. And that's when I decided I needed to start counting. So I did the counting and did everything. And I was like, oh, I cut too many, which meant I had too many, which meant I have extra blocks. I have basically 4 extra blocks that have been started and everything. So if I want to do another quilt in this fabric and that same pattern, I have kind of a start on it, but whatever. Luckily, I still had just enough extra fabric to cut that additional strip to get everything done, and everything is like fine, perfect. I had to do some fussy cutting for the alternating blocks. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, it was just exciting to be able to show off that I started and finished a quilt in a handful of hours in a simple pattern. Thursday was long arm day, but it started with a little bit of an adventure. The backing fabric that I had chosen for this project came from my stash. Yes, Russ shopped from his stash. And as I'm pulling everything off the bolt, I was off by probably about 3/4 of a yard. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Do I, just go buy 4 yards of fabric, or I'm sorry, 3.5 yards of fabric for what I knew that I needed, or do I piece like 3/4 or so of a yard of fabric in the middle as a stripe, something that I had not done before? So I was doing the math and looking at things. I'm like, I'm gonna like the way the stripe looks. So I was like, let me just buy the fabric for the stripe. Went to the shop and said, hey, I need 5/8 of a yard of this. She cut it and everything, and it was after she had cut it that I saw the number of inches that was. I was like, I asked for the wrong number. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, I meant to ask for 7/8. And for some reason I said 5/8. And that's, a quarter of a yard difference. That's 9 inches. And I probably could have barely gotten away with the 5/8, but that would have been really tight, especially after I had loaded everything on long arms. I'm like, okay, I'm buying 2 cuts of fabric because, yeah, you can't put that initial cut back on the bolt. And she's just looking at me and like, are you sure? I was like, I made the mistake. I can't, punish the shop for my mistake. It's a lot harder to sell a already cut a fabric, especially at the amount that it was, as opposed to just, making me buy both. And I will have no issues finding a reason to use this gorgeous fabric in a project. So I did tell her, I was like, I have no issue buying it. So I bought it and everything. Came home and pieced my backing. Like I said, it was the first time I did a stripe, and it was a lot more work than I had anticipated, but it came out looking really, really cool. I'm now realizing I don't think I have any pictures of the stripe binding. We'll have to see what gets posted on Quilt Show Sunday from Show and Tell. Anyway, um, it it was just something that I'm just excited that I was able to get done. Probably won't do it often because I prefer the simpler thing of just having a solid binding, or worst case scenario, two different fabrics for the binding that were both the same size. So maybe like the top is one fabric, the bottom is another fabric. Piecing that stripe in just seemed like a little bit of an extra effort that I probably didn't really need. But like I said, it came out gorgeous. So maybe as I get better, might do it some more often. I got the quilt loaded onto the long arm and stitched it up pretty quickly. After every few rows, I knew that I need to go a certain number of rows before I started to need to look at the bobbin. And when I got there, I was like, oh, I still got plenty of bobbin. Went down a couple more rows. Oh, I still got plenty of bobbin. Went down a couple more rows and forgot to check the bobbin. And I was like, I'm on the last row. Well, the last complete row. And I was like, hopefully I can make it through because I didn't check the bobbin. Nope, didn't make it through. Got about 80% through. I ran out of bobbin. It happens and everything, and I know how to recover from it. But I do have a small little nest on the back of my quilt because my long arm didn't do the hey, will you pull up the bobbin stitch like it normally does. I'm calling this user error because I know it's something that I'm not doing right, but I also had in my mind I should pull up the bobbin thread while I have everything up here. So yeah, I should be able to pull out a little bit of a nest and everything when the quilt is back in my possession. So I'm not really concerned about it. Friday was a little bit of a rough day. A year ago Friday, I lost Jesse. I knew the date was coming up because everything else that was going on in Time Hop, it just showed the history that, my air conditioner got fixed, and then I caught that dreaded C word, and all of this happened. So I'm like, I know what's happening days. While I was ready for it, I also wasn't ready for it. But because of everything, I had a little bit slower start than I had hoped. But it was binding day. I worked on the binding for both the Pinwheel Picnic quilt, which is a pattern from Stephanie Stitches, and the Super Secret Project that, I know you're all wondering about. And it also meant, getting the binding on the Super Secret Project that I started and completed a project in 3 days. In my defense, the pattern is a super simple pattern and everything, but I was excited to be done with a project in 3 days. I don't think I could say that except for the few times that I have done baby quilts. And again, super simple pattern baby quilt. Saturday morning was Saturday Sampler Day at my local quilt shop. It's also the shop's Christmas in August event that they were doing at the same time. So they pretty much got us in and out very quickly. And then, at the end of our Saturday Sampler, we did our usual show and tell. When I got up there, I made a comment. I was like, In the past month, I have been in the shop 3 times, and each of those 3 times, I did not see myself in the digital picture frame that's next to the cash register. I normally see myself at least once in the register photo frame. So I was like, I thought about leaving a bad review because there's that. But instead, I have multiple show and tell items that I want to show. The first show and tell item that I showed was the Pinwheel Picnic quilt that um, we started at Stephanie and Shannon's retreat back in June. I love the way that it came out and everything. Gorgeous. The second thing that I showed was the matching bag that Shannon taught at the same retreat. That came out a lot of fun. Everybody loved it. And then the third show and tell I did was said super secret project that everyone was falling over with because they were like, that is a really cool way to showcase the fabric. It looks simple, so you get a lot of oomph out of it. It doesn't look so simple that anybody can do it. I mean, anybody could do it, but it just doesn't look like you didn't put any thought into it. But it's also simple enough that as we said, you can get it done in a couple of days. So yeah, everybody was just in love with it. I then came home and did my Saturday sampler block during my 11sies live. The awesome part that's going on with this Saturday sampler program at the quilt shop is they're giving us extra fabric so that um, instead of cutting like just what you need, they give you, I think it's a fat eighth of the fabric. And then when they think that you're about to run out of the fabric, they give you more, which meant I knew that I had all the fabrics that were required for this month because they put a picture up on their website after the first Saturday. So I knew everything that I needed. And I can do the math backwards to say, hey, this is the size, square I need to make half square triangles. This is the size squares that I need to make four patches. This is what I need for the center square. So I knew all the sizes that needed to be made. And I had enough fabric and everything that, I technically didn't need to go to Saturday Sampler because I had all the fabrics. I cut everything Friday night. So when I got here ready to go for the live, I was like, oh, cripes, I don't have my pattern because I like to show the end result to everybody that so they know what I'm heading toward. So I had to run and get the fabric out of the car. They only gave the background for my colorway this time because that's all we needed. And like I said, I didn't even need that because I've been pretty conservative with my cuts. I did finish the block. This is a lot of fun. I love their fabrics that they have been giving us. The colorways. It's very, I'm gonna say springy. It's almost a little retro 1960s look, a little bit with the way the flowers are. It's just gorgeous. I'm having a lot of fun. I am excited for when this ends up finishes up January, if I remember correctly. This was month 6, so uh, it'll finish in another 6 months. After my live, I got to go run up to the other quilt shop to drop off my super secret project. At this point, you're asking, what is this super secret project? Which I know I have been very, very, very quiet about. So, Tula Pink's latest line, Tabby Road Deja Vu, came out recently. When this shop posted that the collection had arrived, I asked them, I was like, do you have any patterns or kits or anything in mind to go with it? Because I love to be able to, sew something up that somebody had in mind for the fabric. And they said that they didn't and asked if I had any ideas to go with it. And I was like, I'm kind of thinking this. So I pinged the shop owner and said, these are my thoughts. It's based on a pattern from one of the 3 Yard Quilt books, and I've modified it a bit to use different borders and make it a little bit bigger, and it gives it a little bit more life. So obviously, it's not 3 yards of fabric that is being. I forget how much yardage it is, but it's like 4 or so yards of fabric, if I'm remembering correctly. I have it written down somewhere, not here. And she said that she loved the idea. And like we talked a bit about, the shop sample program that they do and what the rules are and how to get involved. And I was like, I'm game if you are, because I had this past week off. The only reason why this project happened is because I had this past week off. So they cut up the fabric that I needed, had it all ready. I picked it up Tuesday and I sewed it up. And let me tell you, it came out better than I had even imagined it when I had drawn it up in each weight. The other thing is, this will be the kit that they are going to use to showcase the fabrics, which means a quilt that I dreamt up, I put together, I quilted and bound is going to be hanging in a quilt shop with my name on it. I am so excited about this. I dropped it off and I need to go back next week to actually see my name up on the quilt, my quilt hanging and everything. It's just like it's an honor. It's exciting. I am beyond thrilled. I have had a couple people ask about the pattern. I haven't come up with a good way to host it for downloading yet. I haven't even had time to touch my website, and I wanted to have it up for like 2 years now. But if you want it, shoot me an email at the email address in the description below, and I'll send it your way. It's a free pattern, and I'm using free as in my half of the pattern is free. It's really an addendum to an existing pattern in uh, this book, the Quick as a Wink 3 Yard Quilt. So you do need this book in order to use my pattern. But it is a wonderful way to do that. So if you send me an email, I will drop everything or I will send you the addendum to the pattern, and you can make it really in any fabrics. I just use the Tula Pink Tabby Road pattern to showcase those fabrics. When I came home after dropping everything off, I joined Stephen Bland's of the Idiot Quilter, his pop-up sew day. He had an emergency pop-up sew day this past weekend because Walter was off sewing with other people, and I did not get any sewing done during the pop-up sew day. I had a couple people ask, "Hey Russ, what are you working on?" And I was like, "I'm just working on some behind-the-scenes stuff. I was trying to catch up on a few things, get a few things checked off my other lists." So it was just nice to have the pop-up sew day, people just chit-chatting, a little bit of that background noise to get me moving around. This morning was just a little bit of a quiet day. I'm just getting everything all ready in here because I have to be back in the office tomorrow. And I really, really don't want to be back in the office tomorrow. But, the kids, they want to be able to eat, so I must go to the office. on Wednesday during the Sewing with Stephanie and Steven, which again was without Steven. And at this point, Stephanie was out to lunch. Somebody ended up trying to suggest that I should do pop up sew days of my own. Mostly because I guess that, the weekly one with Stephanie and Steven isn't enough for them, plus the Stevens random pop up sew days, which happen once or twice a month. They're like, we want more. And apparently, I'm the next person in the list to try to say, hey, let's do this. My first reaction was, that's Steven's thing. I really don't want to infringe on his pop up sew day thing, specifically pop up sew day. That person ended up saying that they would go back to Steven and ask if it was okay for me to do some of them. And I was like, okay, whatever, at least it's out of my court again. Then yesterday during Steven's emergency pop-up sew day that he hosted, the topic was brought up again. And I reiterated the whole concept that it's not my idea. But after the conversation went through, Steve and I had a couple conversations back and forth, and he said he's pretty much fine with it. Now, before you get excited, there's a few things that I need to get out there that go with this whole idea. The first thing is, if I did these, they would be on a Sunday, because Saturdays are reserved for my 11sies live and anything else that I may need to do for running around. Plus, also, Saturdays are usually the days that Steven does his pop-up sew days already. So there's no point in attempting to confuse people there. And if it did happen on these Sundays, they would have to be over and everybody logged off by 4 p.m. Eastern. Why? Because that's when the Sunday evening YouTube lives that I enjoy watching start. I start with Steven and Walter at 4 Eastern, and when that's over, I make sure Riley has her afternoon walk around the block. I get my dinner and everything done so that I'm ready for John with Guys Craft 2's live at 4 p.m. Arizona time, which is going to cause me a little bit rush when daylight savings time ends, but that's in a few more months. I don't have to worry about that now. Either way, things will need to be done by 4. And also, I need a name for it. I do not want to piggyback on the name Steven came up because it's his, and if I piggyback on a name that's already in use, it will get confusing for people to know, okay, is this Russ's sew day or is this Steven's sew day, so they know which links to end up using, because we can't share the same link. So until I can come up with a name for it, I can't even start anything with it. If you have thoughts on a name, leave them in the comments below, and that might give me some more motivation to do one. And then finally, if I did start hosting these on Sundays, it would end up pushing my weekly vlog to another day in the week. I know everybody is excited for their Sunday evening dish from me, but I can't record a video and do my do a sew day event on Zoom at the same time. So the only solution for that is to push out my weekly vlog to another day. So yeah, if all that happens, my weekly vlog will be pushed to another day, and it would be consistently on that other day, because it gets confusing if one week it's on a Sunday and then the next week it's on a Tuesday, and just going back from that, that's too much work. So if I do start doing these random Zooms, everything gets shifted. So in the end, I also need to know what the interest levels are. So let me know in the comments below if you're interested in another random set of sew days with somebody. These will not be weekly, because Saturday and Sundays are my only time to get certain things done around the house and everything else. But I'd like to do them once a month if I do them, similar to what Steven does. And, if I have days off work, that's another chance for a sew day. And, those are exciting. So, again, let me know in the comments below what you're interested in these. I did a lot this week. Of my whole list that I had, I think only 3 things did not get completed. And I didn't expect to complete everything on the list. What will I work on this week? I haven't really thought about that too much, just because I've been trying to focus on getting as much as I can from the previous list done. Though the first thing that comes to mind is Stephanie's Cozy Star Quilt Along that I signed up for. I bought the fabric from her, and she released her first week of blocks this morning. And if I don't start those, I'm going to be so far behind, it'll be ridiculous. And I don't want to just have fabric sitting there with no project started. The second thing that also comes to mind is Fort Worth Fabric Studios Christmas Sew Along, for the most part, is starting tomorrow. The first week of instructions being released tomorrow. I know they always include cutting with week 1, and occasionally they release a block, so I will find out tomorrow whether or not I'm going to be working on, for the most part, on Saturday, if there's a block, or if I'm going to have to shove something else in its spot. Uh, I'll find out, like I said, tomorrow, and then I'll be able to post something up there later this week as to what's going on with my 11Zs. Beyond that, I don't know how much time I will be able to spend in here this week, because I've been off of work for a week. Who knows what kind of things broke? And I also found out Monday that I have one typo in something that went into production. And it's not a big thing, but it's going to require another migration just to change 3 letters. So, but yeah, everything else that has recently gone live, who knows how much support we are having. Yeah. Anywho, I think that is going to be about it for today. This one was a long one because of everything that I did. I hope you were entertained a bit by my weekly shenanigans. If you wouldn't mind doing the things for the YouTube algorithm that makes it happy, that would be awesome. Things like liking the video, or disliking it if you so choose, subscribing to my channel, and commenting. If you ring the bell icon next to the subscribe button, it gets you notified when I go live on Saturday mornings and upload other videos throughout the week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and an awesome week. Till next time, stay happy and keep stitching.